On today's episode of the DuckZone503 Podcast, we're going to be talking about the return of Jeffrey Bassa, Tez Johnson, Traeshon Holden, and Tysheem Johnson. Duck fans are excited, man. 2024 is looking like a big season. What's the impact of the return? I'm going to kind of break down each guy, what I think they bring to the table for next season. Plus, this is big news, guys. Former Texas A&M wide receiver Evan Stewart, number 2 overall player in the portal, number 1 wide receiver in the portal right now, is officially on campus as we speak in Eugene, Oregon, visiting the Ducks. So this is going to be a big episode, guys. Stay tuned. I'm your host, Dominiqk Peterson. This is the DuckZone503 Podcast, where we talk all things Oregon football. Let's get into it, people.
Welcome to the DuckZone503 Podcast, talking all things Oregon football, with your host, Dominiqk Peterson. Let's go.
Good morning, everybody. Go Ducks, go Ducks. We're back here on the podcast. Today is January 5th, 2024. I'm happy to be with you guys. We got plenty of string of good news of guys returning. We still got some guys that need to return. We're going to talk about all this. I see somebody asking on the Instagram live right now, is Jordan Burch coming back? That's something I'm definitely going to be talking about on this episode. Evan Stewart is on campus right now as we speak, guys. Number 2 player overall in the portal is on campus. So this is a big episode. Guys, if you're listening on Spotify, please rate it 5 stars for me if you're listening on Spotify. I give you guys weekly podcasts on all things Oregon football. Going to try to get some recruits on here as soon as possible. And if you're not already, please go follow us on social media at DuckZone503. If you're not already, we're on every platform you can think of. So go follow us. Just type in DuckZone503. If you haven't already, welcome everybody in. Good morning. Welcome everybody. Daddy Mendez, go Ducks, baby. 2024 Two-Tone Tony says 2024 season is going to be epic. Man, I can't wait, man. We got a lot of, no pun intended, big things coming. Big Ten is coming, man. And what do you guys know? Washington, Michigan, 2 Big Ten teams in the national championship. And as much as I hate to say Washington's in the national championship, yeah, gross. The good thing about this is it represents our conference, right? Big Ten going into that power conference, and 2 Big Ten opponents beat 2 SEC opponents to get that national championship, which, gives us a leg up in discussions, as a fan base. If anybody wants to talk crap, anybody from the SEC, we got a leg up on them this year. So, all right, guys, let's get into it. On Wednesday, all-conference linebacker Jeffrey Bassa announced he is returning for the 2024 season. This was absolutely huge for this 2024 season, especially for the defense, because Jeffrey Bassa is the leader in the middle for that defense. We're talking what Noah Sewell used to be, right? Noah Sewell, all the communications going through him. He is the leader. He is the veteran leader on this defense. And now you get Bassa, who racked up 63 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, 1 interception, 1 pass breakup. Also earned second-team All-Pac-12 honors. So you're getting a second-team All-Pac-12 player back on your team. And this is what's important. Going into the Big Ten Conference, where you need linebackers that, are veteran-led and just big. And this is the thing. Jeffrey Bassa is not the biggest linebacker. He's going to have to put on another 10, 15, maybe even 20 pounds like he just did this offseason. You got to remember, Jeffrey Bassa came into Oregon under Mario Cristobal, and he was started at safety. So he was very undersized as a linebacker where Dan Lanning came in. And excuse me, guys. When Dan Lanning came in, Jeffrey Bassa moved down to linebacker. And you could see, he was definitely pushed around, especially against Georgia, and he struggled a little bit. He was actually one of the poorest graded linebackers according to PFF in his first year there last season. But into 2023, this last season, he really came in heavy, put on 20 pounds in the last offseason, and that made a major difference to him. And it also seemed like year 2 in the Dan Lanning system and the Tosh Lupoi system really did him wonders. Having more experience under the system, getting accommodated to everything around him and to his teammates, right? And this guy's a leader, man. This guy's the leader of your defense. To retain him going into the Big Ten, where linebackers, veteran linebackers, big-time linebackers are needed, Jeffrey Bassa gives you that. So that is epic to get him back. According to James Carpia, He received feedback from the NFL College Advisory Committee, but declined to share what it was, which indicates, if anything indicates what that means, probably wasn't a good draft grade for him going for the NFL draft. The draft advisory committee either tells draft eligible players with eligibility remaining that they're expected to be first or second round picks, or advises them to return to college, which I expect Jeffrey Bassa. I don't think Jeffrey Bassa was a first or second round pick this year. Now, does he have the potential to be that next year in the Big Ten, where you can really shine as a linebacker against these heavy set offenses? And I think this is another opportunity for him to bulk up another year 3 of being a linebacker in Dan Lanning's system, and really take off, man, in this defense. Because, and just looking at the linebacker position as a whole, this is going to be a strength. Now, I know we lose Jamal Hill, due to eligibility. That's kind of a big loss there, but that's why retaining Jeffrey Bassa and keeping him from the NFL is really, really important for this Dan Lanning defense. And having this guy in the middle going to the Big Ten gives me a bunch of confidence, man. I can't wait to see, him go against some of those Big Ten offensive lines, those running backs, man. We all know how the Big Ten gets down, man. Go Ducks. We got Coach Blank in the building saying, let's go. The boss _hog. Go Ducks. What is up? Go Ducks, everybody. But, man, yeah, Jeffrey Bassa, I cannot examine enough. Like, man, this guy's going to be elite next season. I mean, he's not your typical linebacker that gets over 100 tackles like a Noah Sewell did when he was here, but he was very effective, man. Very effective at stopping the run, and his pass coverage grade. The thing he's really elite at is his pass coverage. So, love what I'm seeing from Jeff Bassa. Ultimate return, getting him back. That's awesome. Let's move on here. When star wide receiver Tez Johnson announced he will return for 2024. And this was absolutely huge, because I really thought that Tez Johnson was headed to the NFL, in my personal opinion. I mean, you just look at what he did at Oregon this season, and I get it. He kind of went under the radar a little bit until the later half of the season, where he just really exploded. I mean, you look at the first 6 games of the season for Tez, and he really didn't do much. He was subpar right there with the stats with Traeshon Holden and Gary Bryant Jr. And those two come in, make plays, but they weren't really take over the game type players that Tez Johnson really developed into in the later half of the season. I mean, Tez Johnson broke the record at Oregon for receptions with 86 of them. So he holds records in just year 1 of coming to Oregon. And this is somebody who, is a proven player. He went to Troy, did it at that level when he played at Troy University, who's over 1,000-yard receiver there, comes to Oregon and puts up 1,182 receiving yards. And I know a lot of people don't really talk about that, because Troy Franklin had a historic year putting up 1,383 yards, which broke the Oregon receiving yards record. But if it wasn't for Troy Franklin doing that, I mean, Tez Johnson was the best wide receiver on this team, hands down. And Johnson played in all 14 games for those stats, so he stayed healthy. And that's really important, too, to keep guys that can stay healthy. And Tez Johnson will return for 2024. I think a big thing into this was Dillon Gabriel. You look at landing one of the best transfer portal quarterbacks in the country to come here. I think that really helped retain Tez Johnson, and really, really wanted him to make him want to stay. I think having Dillon Gabriel here is really big. And then you look at, the wide receivers that are coming back. Traeshon Holden. Okay, we'll talk about him in a second. He announced that he's coming back as well. You got Gary Bryant Jr., who's coming back. Then you look at the young guys, Jurion Dickey, right? Kyler Casper. These are guys that can make plays. So this is going to be awesome. And then in our recruiting class, we got Jeremiah McClellan, one of the best wide receivers, borderline 5-star. You guys go look at this guy's tape. Jeremiah McClellan coming out of, I think he's coming out of Missouri. Borderline 5-star kid. He's a 4-star. But, man, he's a freshman coming in. I don't expect these freshmen to play. Like I said, a lot on these podcasts, look, a lot of these freshmen get a lot of hype. A lot of these freshmen get a lot of their tape out there that looks good. But, what these recruiting services try to do is to pitch you on these recruits so much so you can buy their subscription services. Little industry hint plant for you. Like they really, that's their game. Get these recruits out there for you. Not to say these recruits ain't good. Not to say these recruits ain't really what they are. But you look at some of these recruits coming to college ball, just a different game. And some of them don't pan out for a certain reason. And so, man, I'm just excited for this class. Dylan Gresham's another one as well. 4-star kid, put up 2,000 receiving yards in the league he plays in. Now, it's important to note that he doesn't play in the toughest league, but Dylan Gresham out there in Northern California, man, balling 2,000 yards in his junior year. So we're getting 2 major wide receivers through the 2024 cycle. And then you retain Tez Johnson, man. He's going to be an automatic wide receiver 1. And then we've heard the rumblings. Evan Stewart right now is on campus, number 1 transfer portal wide receiver. So the makings of this wide receiver room is very dangerous. You look at what we got. Dylan Gabriel coming in, Dante Moore for the future. Akili Smith is in this 2025 cycle. Then you retain Tez Johnson, a wide receiver 1 for 2024. Bring back Traeshon Holden, who caught 37 passes, 452 yards, and 6 touchdowns in his first season with the Ducks. All career highs for him coming in. Former Alabama transfer wide receiver, so this guy's a baller, just really hasn't exploded yet. Although he did set career best in receptions, yards, and touchdowns this year as a junior. But now you're going to have Tez Johnson and Traeshon Holden, who are your veteran guys. Gary Bryant Jr. is known to make plays. I mean, this wide receiver room, guys, is as loaded as I've seen it in a while. Jurion Dickey, he had an injury coming into this year that really slowed him down in his development. But I'm guessing after this spring that he's going to be fully ready to go for the fall. I cannot wait. Two-Tone Tony says Dylan Gabriel is going to love his 2 new teammates, man. It's going to be awesome to see Dylan Gabriel. Hawaiian kid, we talked about him, from Hawaii. We're going to go play in Hawaii for our season opener, so there's going to be lots of families surrounding him there. Awesome opportunity. And I got to argue. I just got to argue, man. I really think that Oregon has the opportunity to have one of the best offenses in the country. And, man, I do, especially in the Big Ten. You look at the Big Ten and their offenses. I mean, can you really argue about Oregon's offense that has Dylan Gabriel, Tez Johnson returning, Traeshon Holden, Gary Bryant Jr.? Then you got Noah Whittington returning at running back. You return your 2 starting offensive tackles, Johnny Cornelius, Josh Connerly. Iapani Luulu looks absolutely dangerous at the center position, replacing the Remington Trophy winner Jackson Powers Johnson. So the offensive line, check. Wide receiver, definitely check. Probably the strongest part on the team. Quarterback, check for the next 3 years. Dylan Gabriel, Dante Moore, Akili Smith coming in. I mean, guys, this Oregon offense is elite. And then you got Will Stein. You seen what he did at offensive coordinator this last season. And then you look around the Big Ten. I mean, Ohio State, they just got that guy from Kansas State, one of that quarterback. I think his name's Will Levis or something. I forgot his name. Jordan James. Yeah, you guys are right in the chat. Shout out you guys. Jordan James. Jordan James will be back. Can't wait. Jade Lamar is a young stud at the running back position, 100%, man. So the offense is going to be dangerous. You look around the Big Ten, Ohio State, Michigan, Washington loses a lot. I really think that Oregon has the opportunity to have the best offense in the Big Ten and probably in the country because we're veteran-led, bunch of veterans. And Dan Lanning, the way he builds his roster through the transfer portal and recruiting, doing a little bit of both, is just absolutely beautiful. A thing of beauty, man. Because a lot of coaches, they're lean all the way recruiting and never hit the transfer portal. You look at guys like Dabo Swinney at Clemson. That's how they kind of did it. Now they're starting to learn. You're seeing Clemson starting to take in more transfer portal guys a little bit. But for a long time there, that's why Clemson kind of went downwards as a program. Is because Dabo Swinney just does not hit the portal. He doesn't believe in it, which he has his own personal reasons. I get it. You know, you don't want to cut guys that are already here on the team that's committed to your program for a guy that's in the portal that might be better for your team talent-wise. But that's not what college football used to be. Fortunately, it's what it is now. Is T. Ferg returning? So, yeah, man, T. Ferg and Herb, man, these are decisions that we're going to talk about here pretty soon. We're going to talk about T. Ferg, some other guys. I got to actually go on Twitter because Ducks Recruiting, shout out Ducks Recruiting, big time recruiting account on Twitter actually gives a lot of good updates, man. and keeps everybody informed. So let's go to his profile real quick so I can see, all the movement real quick. Got to scroll down. He posts a lot. So Oregon transfer portal update. Looking for the NFL one that he posted. Okay, NFL prospect update. So yeah, we're going to talk about that in 1 second. After we talk about Traeshon Holden Tysheem Johnson coming to the Ducks, man, this is absolutely huge. Pickup for the Ducks. Guys, this video and this podcast is sponsored by Mojo Fantasy. I suggest you guys check it out. I've been killing it at Mojo Fantasy. Go check it out. What's up, guys? If you're watching this video, I assume you love watching sports, and I also assume you love making money just like everybody else in the world. So I'm here to tell you guys about Mojo Fantasy. It's a crazy new app that turns sportsbook odds and selections into fantasy contests. Guys, I have been killing it at Mojo Fantasy. Here's how it works, guys. There are thousands of NFL and MLB player props. You build a portfolio, and the better your portfolio performs, the more cash you win. Pick as many props as you want and try to beat the crowd. It's a whole new way to play fantasy, guys. The props act like stocks, so you can buy and sell live all game long. It's the only fantasy app, the only one that lets you make moves after the game starts, so you're not stuck with a bad pick. You can cash in on a hot start or just hang on and let them ride. Now, cash contests are based on real sportsbook odds. You can get the live same player prop selection odds and cash outs as Mojo's New Jersey Sportsbook. You can trade sports just like stocks, guys. You control the action. You can ride your picks, cash out, or enter new positions instantly. And guys, this is my favorite thing about Mojo Fantasy. There is no house advantage, no trying to go against the casino odds. You beat the crowd by building the biggest portfolio and climbing that leaderboard to win that sweet, sweet hard-earned cash. And guys, if you know ball and you're going against a bunch of dummies, to be real with you, it's real easy, and that's it. That's all there is to it. You make picks, you make moves, and you make money. Download now on the Apple App Store and use my code DuckZone for a 100% deposit match up to $100 for your first-time deposit. Link in the description for more. If you're watching on Instagram, the link is in the description on my profile. As always, guys, go Ducks. Enjoy the podcast. All right, guys, let's go ahead and move it on here. Safety Tysheem Johnson will return for the Ducks in 2024. Let's go. Tysheem Johnson was a big-time safety. One of my personal favorites because this guy, he's a little bit undersized for his safety. Okay, he can have some matchup problems in the passing game at times, but what he does do well is absolutely lay the lumber on guys. This guy is a hit stick, man. Johnson finished third on the Ducks with 70 tackles, including 4.5 tackles for loss and 1 sack in his first season with Oregon. The Ducks have also landed, you guys remember Kobe Savage from Kansas State in the transfer portal. He's going to look to replace Evan Williams and Steve Stevens back there. So having Kobe Savage and getting Tysheem Johnson back, having those two back there is going to be absolutely insane. And then you look at, what Oregon has done in the 2024 class as well with 4-star prospects with Aaron Flowers, who, if you look at where he went from his junior season to his senior season, where he was ranked, I mean, this kid's a borderline 5-star. And in the All-American camp or All-American Bowl, I keep seeing these graphics come out. This guy is top 3 day in and day out. Every day of the camp, you see guys move up and down. This guy, Aaron Flowers, is top 3. Borderline 5-star, the way this kid has just went up the rankings. And he plays in Texas. Really, really talented kids in Texas. Really talented receivers, talented offenses. Everybody knows football. Texas football, Texas high school football has some dudes. And he's out there balling, climbing the ranks. So I'm very excited to see what Aaron Flowers can do coming in. And then you got Kingston Lopa coming in. 4-star kid, very long, lengthy kid. Probably needs to add a little bit to his frame, but man, can't wait to see what he can do with a very long Brian Addison type player. So getting those guys back there, this makes for an elite Oregon secondary. I mean, look, you get Jeffrey Bassa back in the middle, veteran guy. Now you're getting Tysheem Johnson back there, veteran-led guy who's been in the Dan Lanning system, can lead guys, know where to be. Know the system, know the calls, know where guys need to be at what time, right? This is what's important about getting veteran guys. Year 3 in the Dan Lanning system for Jeffrey Bassa. Year 2 for Tysheem Johnson. And What's very important here, and the biggest one yet, and we'll talk about some of these draft prospects draft prospects that need to still make a decision. And we'll start here with Jordan Burch, and the most important one that we're still waiting on. And by the time, if you're watching this recording after it comes out, it could already be set in stone that Jordan Burch is coming out, because January 15th, which is in 10 days, is the deadline to announce if you're going to enter the NFL draft or not. So what you're seeing now is, I think, a systematic approach to announce who's returning and who's not. So far, we got running back Bucky Irving going to the draft. You got wide receiver Troy Franklin going to the draft. Jackson Power Johnson going to the draft. You got Jeffrey Bassa returning, Kyrie Jackson going to the draft. So Bucky Irving, Troy Franklin, Tez Johnson, or Bucky Irving, Troy Franklin, Jackson Powers Johnson, and Kyrie Jackson are the 4 guys that are going to the draft so far. Now, who's returning? Tysheem Johnson, Jeffrey Bassa, Tez Johnson has announced they're returning. Traeshon Holden has announced they're returning as well. I think those were, Traeshon Holden was definitely expected. Tez Johnson, definitely could have went to the NFL. I definitely think that Jeffrey Bassa could have went to the NFL if they want. Were they first round picks, second round picks? I think Tez Johnson could have maybe been a second round, maybe, definitely a third round pick. But I think Tez Johnson has the opportunity and potential to be a first round pick. I think that's a thing of why he came back. And I think there's a real opportunity to win a national championship here as well in the next season at Oregon. Just with the talent acquisition that Dan Lanning's been building for the next couple of years, he's going to definitely has his guys, his recruiting classes on the field in key positions now. So it's going to be interesting to watch this next season. Like I said, guys, edge Jordan Burch, in my opinion, is probably the biggest need that we need to get back, because if you think about this, guys, if we get Jordan Burch back, now you have a veteran at all 3 levels of the defense. Shout out Dale Bliss for pointing this out on Twitter, because you get Tysheem Johnson back there, Jeffrey Bassa in the middle, and then if you return Jordan Burch up there, I mean, that is big time. And my gut feeling says Jordan Burch is going to return, because this is a 5-star prospect coming out of high school. 3.5 sacks last season. How many sacks did he finish with this season in 2023? Yeah, his numbers went down from a season ago, from 60 tackles in 2022 to 34 total tackles this last season. From 32 solo tackles in 2022 to 13 solo tackles this last season, and 3.5 sacks in 2022 to 3 sacks this season. I mean, that those numbers, being a 5-star coming out of high school, I mean, that has got to improve. That's got to look better. So my gut feeling says Jordan Burch is going to come back. I think another year in the Dan Lanning system, another year of lifting weights and getting fit, this guy's going to be an absolute beast. I mean, look at this guy's size. 6'6", 290 pounds is what he's listed at on ESPN. This guy can be a Kayvon Thibodeau type disruptor. This guy can blow up offensive linemen. And I've seen it. The thing with Jordan Burch for me is just consistency. I see this guy, I'm just saying it, I see this guy take plays off sometimes. I see it where, if it's, let's say, a 3rd and 15, 3rd and long, where he might take the play off. And I hate to see that with D linemen. I want to see them go after it. And that's not to say he does that consistently or all the time. I see it a few times, just watching through the tape and the highlights in the games. But if Jordan Burch can put it all together every single down and realize that he can just dominate with his pure God-given abilities and his size, that's when he'll be, become that talent that everybody's seen him coming out of high school. So my gut feeling says that he will return, and I think that will be one of the biggest returns if we're able to retain him on the team. All we need is a corner and a big D lineman, and we're set, says Jake's predictions. I mean, yeah. I mean, I would love, through the portal to get some guys for sure. That we can keep looking, and I'm sure there will be guys. Nick J. Williams says the freshman tight end has potential. Dude's quick. Yeah, you're talking about Kenyon Sadiq, man, going to enter his sophomore year. You see the Georgia tight end Brock Bowers, probably one of the best college football tight ends in college football history. And tight ends used to be big, bulky guys that can block. You rarely seen tight ends catch passes in the early 2000s and the 90s. Nowadays, you're seeing tight ends go out there like a wide receiver, almost lining up. And Brock Bowers, is the ultimate prospect for a tight end, in this day and age of college football. And what Kenyon Sadiq is exactly that. This guy may be a little undersized, maybe not the best blocker, and you can fix that by just lifting weights, getting bigger, and working on drills on blocking. But Kenyon Sadiq's not the best blocker yet. Very undersized, especially going into the Big Ten. He's going to definitely have to lift some weights. But as far as catching passes, going out there and lining up at wide receiver and having a pass catching tight end, Kenyon Sadiq's definitely your guy. DJ714 says, predict our record next season. That's going to be coming when we get all our players. Okay. There's still going to be a whole lot of movement throughout the spring. After spring ball, people are going to be leaving. Transfer portal open back up, and there's going to be a lot of movement. So I don't want to do that exactly yet. It's not right for me to do that. Not all the rosters are going to be moving. I mean, Washington and Michigan are teams we play next season. They're not even focused about next season. We are, but they aren't. They have a national championship to be playing in. So let's just wait on that. Nick J. Williams says, landing that 6'8" Matter Day D lineman was huge. 100%. Yeah, Aiden Breland coming in as a 5-star defensive lineman this season. Elijah Rushing is another 5-star edge defender coming out of Arizona. So talking about some young guys, just a plethora of young guys. And again, guys, I'm gonna harp on this because a lot of the guys see 5-star next to their name and expect him to be playing right away as a freshman. And we see guys like Mateo Ugiagle. I'm not saying guys can't play as a freshman because, like Dan Lanning says, if you're good enough, you'll play. Doesn't matter your age. We don't go by age. We go about how good you are. And guys like Mateo Ugiagle, freshman edge defender this season, played a lot of football. So we can see guys like Aiden Breland, possibly Elijah Rushing, because we did lose a lot of guys on the D line. Very exciting. Very exciting. Is Ferg returning? So let's touch on that. That's a good question. Terrence Ferguson. Now, this is another big retainment if we're able to get one. And I think this is a big need because you got Patrick Herbert, I think, is who's returning, and then Kenyon Sadiq back there. And to be honest, I don't think those are two guys that you can really rely on as your tight end one. Kenyon Sadiq just doesn't have that much experience. He's a little undersized. I think you need somebody to kind of complement him. I think he's a nice guy to have come in on certain snaps, certain plays, just depends what you're running. But I think you need a guy who's all around, like Terrence Ferguson. So to retain him would be huge. Terrence Ferguson put up some good numbers this year, though. 42 receptions, 414 yards, 6 touchdowns. That was really good. All career highs in those categories. Put up all career highs. I guess if he feels like he can do better than that, he might come back. But my gut feeling says that this guy's ready for the NFL. In his junior season, put up all career highs. 6'5", 255 pounds. Stayed healthy. Most, pretty much all of his career. So it's looking like, Terrence Ferguson. If it was my choice, if I'm T Ferg, you go to the draft. Now, I'm not sure exactly, I'm not an NFL draft expert or guru. I don't know where guys, prospect out in the mock drafts. I'm not really following that too much. But in my eyes, T Ferg, I might be biased here. T Ferg's a baller, man. That wherever NFL team he goes, I think they're gonna get a baller, and I think he's more than ready to go. I don't see what giving another year can do for you. Now, he might get his his draft grade back and might not really like it, and he also might see the opportunity of the Big Ten being a premier tight end in a premier offense. Like I just explained, Oregon could have one of the best offenses in the Big Ten going into 2024, and being a tight end in that offense and going against bigger, stronger, more physical defensive line like Michigan's and those Big Ten defensive lines that just get after it, and to put tape up against that conference for your senior season, I mean that could be an opportunity. That could be luring for Terrence Ferg. But if I had to guess, if I had a gut feeling, I think T Ferg might be going to the NFL. I really think that might be the case here. I think we need to travel well going into the Big Ten. Let's support our boys and travel. DJ714. 100%. I'm going to try to get out there. I'm definitely trying to hit up the Michigan game on the road. Definitely trying to hit up Ohio State at home. So I'm going to be at some certain games. I'm not going to be at all the games like I was this last season, but I will be at certain games. And the Michigan one is definitely on the docket, trying to go out there in Big Ten country. I think every single year, if you got the money, you got the funds to do it, definitely try to get out there and experience some of these college football stadiums, because Big Ten country, guys, I went to Ohio State in 2021 when we got that win, and it is just a different environment. Look, I love West Coast ball, but the football out there in the Midwest, in the South, is just different, man. It's just different vibes. And seeing Ohio State Stadium, how historical it is, the campus there, it's beautiful. And to be a part of this conference, it's awesome. And have it in our lifetime, man. Cannot wait. Let's go ahead to go here. Offensive tackle Johnny Cornelius has yet to announce his decision. This is a guy that I think will stay here. He had a really dominant year coming from Rhode Island. He made some plays, but I think putting more tape up, especially, going to the Big Ten, I think it's a big opportunity to put a lot of tape up against some premier competition and, just keep adding that tape. But Johnny Cornelius. So I expect a Johnny Cornelius definitely be back. Love the Johnny Cornelius family too. Really, really supportive, really active on social media. And then linebacker Justin Jacobs is another guy. This is a big guy that we can retain, because Justin Jacobs, I expect to return as well, because he had an injury. If you remember, for the first half of the season, didn't come till the Washington State game. Wasn't able to play till the Washington State game. He was dealing with an injury. So just not playing a full year, just in my gut feeling, makes me think that Justin Jacobs is going to return to Oregon. And this guy is 240 pounds. He is the biggest linebacker in the room. And I think especially after Jamal Hill leaving, leaves a lot of snaps, a lot of play time open. And I think retaining a guy in Justin Jacobs would be absolutely huge. 240-pound linebacker in the Big Ten. Virtually, that's the size of almost every Big Ten linebacker. Like I said, Jeffrey Bassa is, a little undersized. You're going to need to put on some weight. And Justin Jacobs is that 240 is just like the average for Big Ten linebackers, because you're going to need big boys. You're going to need, those offensive lines are 350, 360, 300, sometimes 400 pounders up there in the Big Ten. So you're going to need guys that can crash and bang like Justin Jacobs. So we're going to be waiting on that. Colton Cooper, welcome in. We just answered this question. Does Jordan Burch stay? I think Jordan Burch will stay. I think there's a lot to prove. His numbers actually went down from 2022 to 2023. I definitely think there's still more to prove for Jordan Burch. So, yes, let's just run through this. Okay, Terrence Ferguson, I think he's going to enter the NFL draft, in my opinion. Johnny Cornelius, I think he will come back to Oregon. Jordan Burch, I think he will return to Oregon. And Justin Jacobs, I think he will return to Oregon. Those are kind of the guys that we're waiting on. I've guaranteed throughout the next 3 to 4 days, we're going to start seeing guys announce whether they're going or not. So, out of 1, 2, 3, 4 guys that we're waiting on, I think 3 out of the 4 will return. The one guy not returning, T. Ferg, in my opinion, we will see. We will see as these announcements come out. Okay, speaking about departures, Cole Martin, hold on 1 second, guys. I am going to have to answer this phone call. I'll be right with you in 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. Important phone call that I just had. I'm getting my little inside baseball. I'm getting my car fixed right now. So when the mechanic comes calling, I need to answer that phone call. Anyways, guys, let's hit up departures real quick. Cole Martin, true freshman. Cole Martin has entered the transfer portal. Man, oh man, this was a pretty big loss, a surprise loss, because Cole Martin played the most snaps out of any true freshman defensive back. So think about that, guys. A guy that played a lot of football. He's also the son of defensive back coach Demetrius Martin. And he was also the first commit in this 2023 class, the very first one coming in. So to have him leave was a definite head scratcher. My mind instantly went to, is Demetrius Martin leaving? Is that what this points to? Because why would he leave? Now, this is what I learned in college football, in this day and age of college football. And a lot of people hit my DM is, why is he leaving? Why is Cole Martin leaving? You know, this guy is a guy that played a lot of snaps, looked really good. This is on my podcast, at least, if you guys have been watching throughout the season. I've been saying Cole Martin looks like an absolute stud, looks like somebody when, you know, Tysheem Johnson's up and those safeties go. He's definitely undersized, but this is a guy that can lay the lumber, knows where to be, coaches kid, works very hard. And he ends up leaving. And this is the thing that I've been learning in this day and age of college football is, look, guys, Alabama, their starting center, who's one of the best centers of all college football, just left for the portal. Walter Nolan just left for the portal. I mean, these are guys that can start anywhere at any point, and they're leaving to go elsewhere. And some guys, some of their reason, if you read some of these reports, some of their reasons are just, I just want to go play somewhere else. And I'm just there like, man, this is crazy, this day and age. But instead of trying to find out why guys left, why did they leave? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, because some guys won't even tell you. My mind instantly went to Demetrius Martin leaving. As of now, I have not heard any reports of him linking to any jobs, him going anywhere, talking to anybody else. Now, could that be the case? I don't know. We look at Oregon's secondary over the last 2 years for Dan Lanning's defense. It has been the weakness of the team. So is Dan Lanning looking for a better defensive back coach? I don't know. I look at Demetrius Martin and love what he's doing. You look at the recruits he's brought in. I think we got to give him a chance to get his guys. And I think year 3 now of Demetrius Martin, this is the chance to get his guys. You look what Jaleel Florence has became in year 2. Now he's going to be in year 3. Hopefully Jaleel Florence is that star as a defensive back. Goes to, he brought in Kyrie Jackson. He brought in Christian Gonzalez. I mean, this is a damn good defensive back coach. So I would hate to lose Coach Meat, man. Cole Martin let out a statement here on Instagram. I'll read it to you guys real quick. Cole Martin says, quote, "Above all, I want to thank OG Coach Meat for installing confidence into me day in and day out. The time spent being coached by you was priceless. Thank you for developing me into the player and man I am today. Last but certainly not least, thank you, Lord, for shaping me through the positives and negatives that life brings. With that being said, I've decided to enter my name into the transfer portal." Martin played the most snaps out of any freshman defense back this season, guys. He finished the year with 21 total tackles, 1 interception, and 1 pass breakup as a true freshman. So like I said, guys, if you could just hit the field as a freshman, let alone just hit the field, I mean, that is elite. And this guy put up numbers. And, man, this guy was in the right position almost every play. As a true freshman, knowing where to be. And I think that comes with being a coach's kid, just knowing where to be and, just being in the system, being a hard worker, being consistent. And that's what Cole Martin is. And a lot of kids are not consistent. Consistency and 18, 19-year-old kids are not friends, okay? So when you got a guy that young who is that consistent, that's superstar potential written all over him. And it sucks to see Cole go because I think he's a damn good player. As of now, he has a crystal ball to Arizona State. That's what we've seen as of yesterday. There's a crystal ball going to Arizona State. So I think the familiarity with Kenny Dillingham and that staff maybe going to Arizona State. He's from Arizona. He played high school ball there. Maybe he wants to go home and go play with a familiar staff member. And, I don't think this has anything to do with Demetrius Martin. And that is where my head went first, but I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't see any reports, any rumblings of that. So I think Demetrius Martin here to stay. Cole Martin, unfortunately, is gone, and it's looking like he's crystal ball to Arizona State. We'll see if he goes there. By the time you're watching this, he could already be committed there. The Ducks also, you got to think about it, they're bringing in some serious competition. This could be also another reason why Cole Martin left. The Ducks signed 3 cornerbacks in the 2024 cycle. 4-star Dakota Fields and Ife Obadegwu are elite 4-star corners coming in, as well as the number 1 junior college defensive back, Sion Laole. So three big-time defensive backs coming in. That's a lot of competition to deal with. Not saying Cole Martin runs from competition, but that could be the case. So I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much on why he left, but he did leave. I see it as a pretty key loss for the future. I don't think this guy would have started this year. I do think he would have been a nice rotation player, a nice 2 deep player going into the future here. But unfortunately, he's gone, and Oregon will have a lot to replace him, though. That's the good news with Ife Obadegwu, Dakota Fields, and Sion Laolu. Some other departures here, not as key as Cole Martin, that'll hit on real quick. Oregon tight end Casey Kelly entered the transfer portal. The former Ole Miss transfer and nephew of NFL Hall of Fame quarterback Jim Kelly had just 13 receptions and 43 yards and 2 touchdowns during the 2023 season. He did have a couple of nice grabs, another couple highlights there. This is a player that I thought, that if Terrence Ferguson is off to the NFL, that could definitely have a prominent role, a bigger role than he had this last season, because just naturally a guy leaving, the guys behind him kind of step up, right, into a bigger role. Well, with him leaving to the portal, that might give me indication that Terrence Ferguson will return to Oregon, right? Because if you have a guy leaving, you might think, okay, this is my opportunity. Well, that's not the case here. Casey Kelly did not play a lot. To be honest with you, a lot of fans don't even really know his name when I put the tweet out there, which is sad, but because he's a good player, but he's gone. And I don't think it's a huge loss, especially if T. Ferg comes back. And then you got, like I mentioned, Kenyon Sadiq as a freshman and Patrick Herbert. Another departure here, Oregon defensive line Jake Shipley has entered the transfer portal. The former 3-star prospect recorded 15 total tackles in 24 career games with the Ducks. And look, guys, if you have more career games than you do stats, that just shows that you really couldn't get on the field. I think this is a Mario Cristobal player that came in and just didn't fit in the Dan Lanning system. He's off to the transfer portal. Best of luck, Jake. As I always say, guys, once a Duck, always a Duck. I'll be watching these guys to see where they go. Hopefully they find a home, man. All right, let's get to the big news that you all have been waiting for. Evan Stewart is on campus right now, guys. Former Texas A&M wide receiver, 5-star transfer portal prospect, and the best available player in college football open market is visiting Oregon right now and is going to stay through the weekend. Got to expect NIL deals are being talked about here. This guy's sought after across the country. Best teams across the country. I'm talking Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, all the best teams, Texas, UW, all want him. And Florida State looks like the school to battle here, because I think he did or is planning a visit to Florida State. I'm not sure if he went there. Don't quote me on that, but he is taking a visit to Oregon, and he's here right now. So that's very important, man. Cannot wait. Sounding like the Ducks, might have a battle here with Florida State. Florida State got Keon Coleman, a prominent transfer portal wide receiver, and you see what Keon Coleman turned into at Florida State. So that could be a pitch for them, while a pitch for Oregon for Evan Stewart to come is, one, we got a major NIL deal. Not to say Florida State doesn't have money as well. They got a lot of money over there. But NIL deal over here, prominent living. And you just seen what this Oregon offense did under Will Stein. Probably the best offense in the country. One of the most balanced offense in the country. Okay, right there with Washington, right up there, with best offenses in the country. So to plug him in right there with what Troy Franklin just did, have Tez Johnson, Traeshon Holden Jr. Oh my gosh, can you imagine what this wide receiver might be? The best wide receiver room in Oregon history. Can't wait to see if this guy commits to the Ducks. Stewart finished with 38 receptions for 514 yards and 4 touchdowns across 8 games during his sophomore campaign. Stewart was a former freshman All-American and was one of the SEC's best receivers in 2022 despite his newcomer status. He caught 53 passes and averaged 12.1 yards per reception. Both tallies ranked inside conference's top 10. Thanks On3 Sports for that stat there, because, man, this guy is the real deal. And you also look at the additions of Dylan Gabriel, Dante Moore for the future. This can make it a very appealing place to play if you're Evan Stewart. instant starter. This guy will be a plug and play. We need an X receiver out there on the outside. If Evan Stewart doesn't end up coming to Oregon, you still got Traeshon Holden in there. That could be a plug and play player. But I mean, landing an elite wide receiver like this, former 5-star, former number 1 wide receiver in the 2021 class, man, this would be an absolute barn burner. I mean, you talk about having an argument for the Ducks having the best offense in the country going into 2024. Dylan Gabriel at quarterback puts up 3,000 plus yards 4 out of the 5 years. Wide receivers out there. If you had Evan Stewart, then you got Tez Johnson, Traeshon Holden, Gary Bryant Jr., Jurion Dickey. I mean, man. Jurion Dickey was a 5-star that didn't even get to play last year because he was coming off an injury. I mean, if you return a Johnny Cornelius, now you got Josh Connolly, a Johnny Cornelius, your 2 starting tackles. If you return Terrence Ferguson, I mean, man, this offense is going to be dangerous, man. This is going to be dangerous. So, Matt Zenitz at 247 Sports said this in December about Evan Stewart's recruitment. He says, quote, naturally, he's going to have top places as options for him. It's unclear what the top schools of interest are as of yet, but the one thing I've gotten from someone close to Evan is that it will be a football decision and not an NIL situation. And he legitimately wants to find a program and situation that positions him best from development standpoint and sets himself up to be an early round NFL draft pick. And this was back in December. You think about what Oregon just did with Troy Franklin, developing him into what looks to be a first-round draft pick. I mean, and he's not worried about NIL. That's a beautiful thing. He's all worried about development and where he can progress. And I think Oregon has a strong case, a strong pitch for that. And I'm going to be watching this closely because Evan Stewart is a huge prospect in the portal. Cannot wait, guys. Owen Woltz just says Ty Thompson to Tulane. Wow, is this breaking news right now? Let's search this up. Ty Thompson. Did he really go to Tulane? Not seeing any news on my end. No breaking news on my end. From what I've seen, he was going to go visit Iowa. I seen that a day ago. Hawkeye's Wire reports that Oregon Ducks transfer quarterback Ty Thompson will be visiting Iowa. So he's going to be coming today, January 5th, Friday. So Ty Thompson's going, taking a plane out to Iowa. So I'll be watching Iowa for Ty Thompson. That'll be interesting. All right, man. So I think that's going to do it all today. 4 Oregon Ducks return in 2024, man. Jeffrey Bassa, Tez Johnson, Tysheem Johnson, Traeshon Holden. That's big time. We're still waiting on decisions from Terrence Ferguson and Johnny Cornelius, Jordan Burch, and Justin Jacobs. Those are some big decisions that have yet to be made. So we're going to be keeping an eye on. I'll keep you guys updated. As always, guys, man, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Rate the podcast on Spotify if you haven't already. I'm giving you guys weekly podcasts on all things Oregon football, trying to get recruits in here as soon as possible. And I'm giving you guys the latest updates on all things Oregon football at DuckZone503 if you're not following us on social media. As always, guys, go Ducks. I'll see you in the next podcast.